And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics Live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment of Cowboy State Politics Live. From very high above all the sycophantic twits in the Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the depths of the Middle Swamp in Wyoming's capital of Cheyenne. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Thursday, the final day of Cowboy State Politics Live for this week. Now, we've had to shake some things up recently, but it's all right, my friends. I'm back at it, and we will just get through it. On this morning's program, of course, we're going to start with a little bit of discussion, what we know about the D.C. plane crash. Also, I have a big story. Well, I don't know if it's a big story, but it's an involved story from the Wyoming legislature. We're going to talk about that. Shocker! I'm actually going to agree with some of the redcoats, and it's only on one minor point. But, my friends, it is, of course, Open Line Thursday. Now, I know. Well, wait a minute. We should probably do this. It's Open Line Thursday. That's right, my friends. Now, Open Line Thursday. Now, during the week, the rules are a little bit different. During the week, you kind of have to talk about what I want to talk about. Not so on Open Line Thursday. Nope, whatever's on your mind, you just go ahead and give me a call and we'll talk about it. It's very different. It's an extraordinary risk on the program, my friends. You know, you would not believe the peril that I put myself in just for this program. So on Open Line Thursday, give me a call. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. The phone number to be on the live program is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989 will get you directed directly to me. And it's Open Line Thursday, my friends. So, Cowboy State Politics Live. Now, a couple of program notes before we get going. I told you yesterday that I would have the new channel to the Cowboy State Politics repertoire up and running so that you can listen to all of the Cowboy State Politics Live episodes. You know, if you're not able to catch the live program, and I've set it up, it's on Podbean, but you can find access to it on the website. Well, I'll update the website shortly after this broadcast. So you'll see a link up at the top that says live replays, and you can go on there and you can listen to every single episode of Cowboy State Politics Live from here on out. So let's get to the program, my friends. Yesterday, and there was a plane crash over Washington, D.C., where an airliner collided with a military jet. Now, I don't know very much about it. I just heard a little bit about it last night, and then I pulled up a couple articles this morning. So from Fox News this morning, an investigation into how an American Airlines jet carrying dozens of passengers and an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided midair at Reagan National Airport near Washington, D.C. It will likely involve communication between the two aircraft, Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota said Thursday morning. Quote, "What we're seeing right now is what happens if you have a lack of communication or a misunderstanding," Rounds, who serves on the Senate Intelligence Committee, told Fox and Friends first. Rounds said investigators will look at everything that happened during the flight, including potential mechanical breakdowns and avionics system failures, but he believes much of the discussion surrounding the collision will focus on communication between the aircraft and whether the communication was accurate. Quote, I'm sure there will be some second guessing, but I suspect that when everything is done and the dust settles and the chances are really good that they'll talk about a lack of communication between the aircraft. Well, regardless of how it happened, it's a tragedy, and there's numerous families that are waking up without one of their loved ones. So, like I said, I don't know much about the midair collision that happened late yesterday. And when I find more information, I'll let you know. Certainly, by Tuesday's installment of the program, I'll have a bunch more to talk about on it. But right now, it's really a tragedy, and don't really know what happened, but I'm sure over the weekend we'll be able to figure it out. But my friends, let's move to some Wyoming news from the Pravda on the Platte. In an article entitled, Wyoming graduation rates remain above 80%, but Natrona falls short, and I quote, the graduation rate for the 2023-2024 cohort of the Wyoming students was slightly higher than with previous cohorts, but and I have no idea what a cohort is. I've never figured that out. I'm guessing it's just a sample of a given time period. The Wyoming Department of Education released new graduation data, and 81.6% of the class graduated on time in 2023-2024. This is 0.2% higher than the previous cohort in Natrona County. The percentage only reached 77.5% last year. The quote, the increase in 4-year on-time graduation rates across the state, particularly those among Native American students and at alternative high schools, shows immense dedication from students and staff, Wyoming Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder said. Graduation rates in Wyoming are calculated using a federal methodology with 4-year cohorts of students. And I mean, I don't know why they have to use this ridiculous term, cohorts. I see it all over the place, and specifically when we're talking about analytics and data. But really what it means is just a sample size. Degenfelder acknowledged in a press release that several administrators have contacted her using this methodology. She expressed that she would be open to changing this method due to the growing school choice movement. First of all, my friends, graduation rates are a ridiculous statistic. Now, while it's important that I think that everybody graduate high school, you can't really do too much without a high school diploma, can't even get a job. But what does it really tell us about our education system? Nothing, because you can independently manipulate your graduation rates pretty easily. All you got to do is dumb down the test scores, and voila! You have graduation rates. In fact, a lot of schools and school administrators, specifically in Sheridan School District number 2, the last meeting I had with them, I was told, the graduation rates are near 100%. To which I replied, I'm sure they are, and it's pretty easy to do if you manipulate all the data and try to make it say something that it doesn't really say. The only thing the graduation rates tell you is that the number of students who went through 4 years of school, which I guess now is some sort of an achievement, being able to dedicate yourself to your own education for 4 years. But here's what it doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell how those students graduated. It doesn't tell you if they had A's or if they had B's or if they had D's. It doesn't tell you any of that. Everybody knows that D is for diploma. So really, if your school is struggling in educating your students, if the test scores are lower, all you do is you manipulate the graduation rate so that you have something great to talk about. But really, it tells us absolutely nothing about Wyoming education, except to say that we get a bunch of people through the door, and the majority of them go through 4 years and exit out the back. But my friends, this is honestly, if a school is touting its graduation rates, you should seriously question the quality of the school, because that is the least informative statistic that they have. This is one that Redcoat former Speaker of the House Steve Harshman mentions on the floor of the House of Representatives fairly often, saying, wow, Wyoming's graduation rates are through the roof. We've got and recently, and this is hilarious, I should have got a soundbite of this, but recently, everything that Steve Harshman says is, we did a better job than anybody in the world. Wyoming education is the best education system in the world. Well, really, that's not true. But according to Steve Harshman, who, everything is the best in the world. But it's an absolutely meaningless statistic. And it means even less that they put it on the front page of the Casper Star Tribune. It tells us nothing, and you really shouldn't pay any attention to it anyway. Next up, and let's see here, 10 minutes after the program. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to save this one because this is going to take me a little bit to get into. But my friends, it is Open Line Thursday on Cowboy State Politics Live. One more time, if you want to be part of the program, the phone number is 307-374-8989. Whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about it. So go ahead and give me a call if you're interested in visiting with me this morning. Now, what's happening in the Wyoming legislature, and I don't have an exact number, but I think that they've gone through 40 or 50 bills, which kind of means they're way behind schedule. Here we are, day 13 of the Wyoming legislative session, and we really haven't got through that much. And there's a reason for that. You'll see, if you've been paying attention, there's a number of articles out, and one of them says, well, the House of Representatives is moving really, really slow. And then you'll see another one that says, man, they're just ripping through bills. This is Tara Nethercott. All of these bills, they're going to require a lot of work when they get over to the Senate. All right. Well, the truth that both of them, only one of those is true, but both of them are really, really misleading. The reason why things are moving slower in the House of Representatives is because the liberals, the redcoats, have figured out that the only weapon they have left is a delay tactic to filibuster every single bill and add about 7 amendments to every bill that they can and absolutely put the brakes on anything the Freedom Caucus wants to do. But the truth is the Freedom Caucus pretty much got through their 5 and dime plan. I've had several members tell me yesterday that they've got through most of their legislative agenda, and now it's just individual little bills, which are important nonetheless. I'm going to talk about I don't know if it's a significant problem, but I'm going to talk about one after the break. But the point here is that it is the redcoats that are slowing everything up. Now, on the other side, you have Slithers Nethercott, who, don't forget, according to some outlets, she's a conservative. Yep, she's absolutely switched horses in midstream, and she is with the conservative majority in the Senate. The truth is they don't have a conservative majority, and Slithers is not a conservative. Her entire 8 years in the Wyoming legislature, she's voted with the Democrats over 70% of the time. So, leopards don't change their spots, zebras don't change their stripes, and Slithers is not a conservative, no matter who is telling you that. But the point is that she says, I think it was in the Wyoming Turkey Vulture, she said, well, a lot of these bills are going to require a lot of work, which is code language for we're going to amend the crap out of them. Now, keep in mind, we were told at the very beginning of the legislative session that the Senate, man, they're working together. They've got a conservative agenda that they're pushing through. But it was just a couple days ago that they killed one of the ESG bills. Now, this is important here. Now, I didn't read the bill. It may have been just a crappy bill, but I think my point is that these ESG bills have been pushed in previous sessions by Senator Bo Beitman, now President Bo Beitman. It's one of his, one of his pet projects. That's not really an accurate term. It's one of the causes that he cares a lot about. He's pushed through bills a couple of years in a row, so you would think this would be on the top of his agenda. But it was killed in the Senate. The conservative Senate, the conservatively managed Senate killed an ESG bill. I suspect that this is just the first opening salvo from the redcoats over in the Senate. But, there again, we really don't know what's going to happen. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip on that one, leaning on history, as you know I always do, and trying to tell you, well, I think that this is what you're probably looking at. But we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, there's, yeah, see, I know. Yeah, exactly right. History, that's me. Well, anyway, my friends, we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about an illegal immigration vote that happened in the House of Representatives. Chairman John Baer voted against it. I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. Christmas is over, and all of the fun holiday cheer has been had. And what are we all left with? Frigid Wyoming weather. Below freezing temperatures that you still have to go out in. That's right, you do have to go back to work at one point or another. And not to scare you, but think about this. Every single morning, you get to scrape the ice off of your windshield. Now, while I can't do anything with that, I can make sure that your feet stay nice and toasty warm while you're doing it. All you have to do is order a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. And to get you a pair of them, go to the website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. Wyoming is one of the most sought-after places to live. There's a lot of people that want to move to our great state. And if you're thinking about selling your house to one of them, you need a real estate agent that you can trust. That agent is Rebecca Bextel at Compass Real Estate. She's lived in Jackson for almost 20 years and has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market. Last year, she sold almost $25 million worth of property. So if you're thinking of buying or selling, give Rebecca a call. Her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
That's right, my friends. Cowboy State Politics Live, Open Line Thursday. If you want to be part of the program, the phone number is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Open Line Thursday on Cowboy State Politics Live. Now, I always tell you that you shouldn't trust the Wyoming media. I just gave you a story from the Pravda on the Platte, and let me give you another example of how the Wyoming media is absolutely full of crap. To the Cowboy, in an article entitled, School Choice Bill Giving $7,000 per Child Passes in Wyoming House. Now, just listen to this, and I quote, the Wyoming House passed a bill Wednesday that will bring universal school choice to Wyoming, giving parents $7,000 per child to seek private education services. The proposal moves to the Senate for confirmation. And I quote, parents are one step closer to being able to choose private education. The final version of the universal choice school bill would give public money to parents to seek private education for their children, and it passed the House by a 39-21 vote on Wednesday. Now, it's true that House Bill 199 did pass the House of Representatives yesterday, but it doesn't give $7,000 to parents. There will be no check that is written and given to Wyoming parents. There will not be a bank transfer. Nobody is slipping them cash. What it is a $7,000 voucher for education supplies from approved vendors on a state's website. That's the only thing that it does. Now, I suppose in the Wyoming media's twisted way, you could say that, well, yeah, we're giving $7,000 to parents. But that's not really true. No, it's a voucher. And the vast and here's the thing, you can only buy stuff that's on the approved list. So it's not like we're doling out money. Julie Jarvis got up on the floor of the House of Representatives and said, "Oh, this is a giveaway. This is a handout." Well, I guess in a manner of speaking it is, but it's way better than the handouts that the Democrats and the Redcoats give away all the time. Because it's a voucher. It's monitored by the state. It's a state website. It's approved vendors. You can't go buy a Harley Davidson with it, nor can you buy a prime rib. But you could probably buy some notebooks and an educational curriculum. So make sure that anything you're reading out of the Wyoming mainstream media, you scrutinize it and you make sure that you've got your facts straight. Don't just read what Leo Trotsky Wolfson pens out in his latest missive and assume that it's fact. More often than not, It's not fact. I mean, just more drivel from the piece of crap, sycophantic Wyoming media. It's fascinating. They for a long time they cheerled for the redcoats in the Wyoming legislature, but now since the redcoats aren't in power, well, they have to take up the redcoats' cause, which is exactly what Trotsky is doing. So there was a vote on an anti-illegal immigration bill in House Appropriations recently, and this is from the Pravda on the Platte, an article entitled Wyoming Freedom Caucus Leader Votes Down Controversial Illegal Immigration Enforcement Bill, and I quote. Now, keep in mind, this is from the Pravda, so we're just going to have to go with all of their language, and I quote. A leader in the hardline Freedom Caucus broke a tie vote Friday, killing a bill that would have required sheriffs to enforce federal immigration laws. Representative John Baer, who chairs the House Appropriations Committee and formerly served as the head of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus, cast the deciding vote, leading the committee to a split 4-3 against the bill. He paused before voting no, giving no indication prior to the roll call vote how he was going to land. In doing so, he strayed from typically unwavering support for anti-immigration bills in the Wyoming legislature. House Bill 276 is the first immigration-related bill to be thrown out this session. It would have cut counties off from state-administered federal funds if a sheriff's office didn't take on immigration officer functions, with few exceptions. Teton County Sheriff Matt Carr, and this is absolutely hilarious here, called the proposal problematic. House Bill 276 would have required Wyoming sheriffs to work with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the agency directed to detain immigrants as part of President Donald Trump's mass deportation plan. If sheriffs choose not to sign the agreements with ICE, the bill would have cut them off from state-administered federal funds. Carr was recently targeted by Wyoming lawmakers because of his office's relationship with ICE. The sheriff told the Jackson Hole News and Guide he was relieved that the bill died. First of all, Matt Carr was not being criticized because of his stance on ICE. Matt Carr was being criticized because he allowed illegal immigrants to escape custody. He literally let them go. Cowboy State Politics is in possession of video of Matt Carr saying exactly that, and then lying about it 2 sentences later. So not only is the Pravda on the Platte not really telling you the whole story, they're relying on a source that is at least problematic, which, of course, is what the Wyoming media does. Now, on to the vote. House Bill 276. And to put it simply, it basically meant that sheriff's departments were going to, I guess, the best way to describe it is to say they would have had to basically have a contract with ICE, which technically they have a contract with the law, and illegal immigration is against the law. So I don't really see the problem. Let's see here. Let's see if they quote John Baer in the article. Yeah, well, not so much. Anyway, a lot of bills die, and it's to just grasp onto one of them and say, well, the Freedom Caucus killed their own bill. Yeah, maybe the bill had problems. It was a tie vote from the very beginning, and there's no reason to assume that there wasn't other problems with it. So there's other anti-illegal immigration legislation in the pipeline, and there's no reason to assume that the Freedom Caucus has given up on it, which is what the Pravda wants you to believe. Now, I'd like to talk about, well, you know what? We need some levity. Take a listen to this. I came across this on YouTube this morning. Here's a little piece I found from Bill Maher. Check this out.
A married couple who are exactly the portrait of a liberal white couple living in Park Slope, Brooklyn that you would expect, wind up moving upstate and then are surrounded by Trumpers, and they're petrified. But then, when they get stuck in the snow, the Trump guy down the street doesn't hesitate to help dig the liberals out. The author, Larissa Phillips, says she slowly came to reject the political prejudice so common among my tribe, and that it's hard to care where someone stands on politics when they race to your house to save a dying lamb, when their wife helps search for your runaway dogs, and that she personally has been stunned by the depth of my neighbor's generosity. It's almost like there are fine people on both sides.
Yeah, almost like there is fine people on both sides. But you notice the comment at the end. Bill Maher is not the crazy liberal. He's not the radical on the other side. He is a classic liberal. And make no mistake, even though sometimes he takes conservative stances, that doesn't mean that he's switched horses in midstream, and it doesn't mean that he's joined our side. It means that Bill Maher is a classic liberal. Now I'd like to go to an that's been going on in the House of Representatives for a couple days straight. Right, they're in the middle of discussing House Bill 258, and it's the capital construction bill. Now, down in Rock Springs, there's been mines all over the place in Wyoming since, before the turn of the century. The last century, not this most recent one. But a lot of them are in need of serious reclamation. And there's one in Rock Springs that absolutely is in need of remediation. The problem is the town doesn't possess the money that's required to reclaim all of that property. And it's a perpetual flood zone. Now, normally, I wouldn't agree with just handing out money to a bunch of liberals that cry about it on the floor. But in this case, I think it's absolutely necessary. Conservatives are often accused of being heartless, that we are the ones that were only interested in the dollar and, we really can't be giving any help to the poor. Well, that's not true at all. Conservatives in general, there's a reason, let me put it this way. There's a reason why conservatives own trucks from 1980 and the 1970s that are still in perfect working order. But because we believe in maintenance, we believe in taking care of the things that are important. We don't believe in buying a new truck every year simply because we can. Some people do. I guess if you've got the cash and you want to spend it, why not? But most conservatives, and that's it. Let's go to the genesis of the word conserve. To conserve. It means to manage the resources that you have, to take care of the things that are old. And so to keep them in perfect working order. To be conservative in a budget means that you only spend money on things that are absolutely necessary. We don't dole out money willy-nilly like the liberals do. But in this case, down in Rock Springs, this is an issue that's been going on for well over 100 years. And it's the mine, the old and unreclaimed mine has made part of Rock Springs a perpetual flood zone. And talking to longtime legislators and folks who have been in the legislature, for a while, they'll tell me that this is a bill or an amendment that is added every single year, that Rock Springs is continually trying to get state money to reclaim this property, and rightfully so. Now, the Wyoming legislature, from time to time, helps out individual Wyoming communities with projects that they are unable to complete on their own. And it's and let me give you an example that one of the conservatives brought last year, the water tower in Wheatland. They have a water tower that's getting ready to fail at a moment's notice, and if it fails, it's going to take a quarter of the town with it. Now, most conservatives were absolutely on board with fixing that, and they ought to be on board with fixing this deal down in Rock Springs. So let me just first bring you the amendment. And this is, and I can't believe I'm actually doing this, but I'm going to have to agree with some liberals here, or some redcoats. Here's Representative J.T. Larson bringing an amendment yesterday to tackle this whole remediation plan. Just take a listen to what he says.
Members, what this amendment is an attempt at a compromise. Yesterday, I brought an amendment for $22 million for the Bitter Creek project in Rock Springs. And I've decreased in this amendment the appropriation to $11 million, and put a provision in there that the city of Rock Springs or Sweetwater County shall provide half of the funds required for segment 2 of the Bitter Creek revitalization project from other sources. So that kind of gives the community flexibility on where they can find those funds, whether that's raising the funds through their own taxes or finding it in their reserves or wherever, but it still does put in some investment from the state. So I'd ask for an aye vote on this at an attempt for compromise on this project.
Now, the original amendment, as J.T. Larson said, was for $22 million. And the problem with his amendment, from a conservative point of view, is that there really was no plan attached to the amendment. It really appeared as though we were just going to throw $22 million at the wall and to see what stuck. And that's probably the main reason why many of the conservatives, even the conservatives from Sweetwater County, voted against the amendment, simply because there wasn't a plan to go after it. There wasn't a plan to manage the project and complete it on time. We don't want to just spend money, just to spend money, to throw money at a problem. One of my favorite sound bites is, we're really good at spending money and without creating a problem, creating a problem and throwing money at it to solve it. That's what the soundbite is. But this is a continual problem. that's been going on since the early 1900s, late 1800s, and it's a problem that is brought to the legislature pretty much every year. One legislator I spoke of said that this amendment has been brought for the last 11 years, and the legislature has not taken any action on it. But the truth of the matter is, my friend, this is a problem that's not going to go away. Rock Springs is a town of about 20 some odd thousand people, and they're unable to remediate it. So take a listen to this next soundbite here. This is John Bear's response to that amendment. Just listen to it.
Your first time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do appreciate the bringer of the amendment's effort to reduce the stress, if you will, on our finances, and that's what I'm going to call it, and it still is. So I'm going to ask you to resist the amendment. But I am going to take a moment, since the amendment addresses a particular account, which I'd like to just spend a little time talking about with the body here, and that is the Legislative Stabilization Reserve account. That's where these. All right.
11... You get the point. So John Bear is saying, don't vote for the amendment because it's going to put a strain on our finances, which is absolutely true. Well, much of the discussion on the floor of the House yesterday was, look, we're already kind of underwater with our spending. And if you want to do tax reform, we've got to really watch the money that we're spent. And that was the position of the Appropriations Committee yesterday. We can't afford to spend money over here. Let's focus on tax reform, which, that does have some merit to the argument, but it completely ignores the problem down in Rock Springs. And, the way I began this segment is to say that conservatives solve problems. And if there is a reoccurring problem that only the legislature can tackle, then we ought to do that. It's no different than the water tower up in Wheatland. Now, compare what's happening in Rock Springs, that is an old abandoned mine that needs to be reclaimed, to some other mines like in Campbell County. Now, the thing is, the federal government takes money from mineral companies and then gives part of that money back for reclamation. Now, in Campbell County, there are billions of dollars that have gone back to reclaim old mine sites. But down in Rock Springs, that mine closed before the federal government ever started extorting money from mineral companies. And so they haven't gotten any of that reclamation money back. So the difference here is that there were funds available to mines in Campbell County, but not mines down in Sweetwater County. And so, we could make the argument to say that, hey, this might be up to the legislature. Well, let's go ahead and we're down at the bottom of the hour, and I've got a couple more sound bites on this. But let's go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this discussion. But this is one of those, I think, conservatively, we should solve the problem and be done with it. That way it's not a problem in the future. But I'll explain when we come back. You can listen to Cowboy State Politics Live every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on the Independence Network. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Cowboy State Politics is sponsored by FreedomGoldUSA.com. They are the working man's gold company. The economy is in turmoil. The stock market pretty much is out of control, and you never know what's going to happen with your finances or your income. One way that you can shore up everything is by investing in gold and silver. Go to freedomgoldusa.com/David for a free interview to discuss your options and find out if gold or silver is right for you. One more time, that's freedomgoldusa.com/David. Welcome back to the program, Open Line Thursday on Cowboy State Politics Live. If you want to be part of the program, the phone number is 307-374-8989. Go ahead and give me a call and opine about anything that I'm talking about during the program or anything else for that matter. You have no idea the risk I put myself in just to say, hey, we'll talk about whatever you want. You never know what people are going to say when they call in. But that's the rules. Open Line Thursday, that's what we do, and we will continue to do it. Now, before the break, I was telling you about the Bitter Creek problem down in Rock Springs. And Bitter Creek floods a majority of Rock Springs pretty much every year because of an old unreclaimed mine. And for many, 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 many years, the representatives from Sweetwater County have been trying to get money from the state to fix this problem and remediate it. And the long and the short of it is the federal government gives reclamation funds back to mining because they've already extorted a whole bunch of money from mining companies. But it's like, we're going to steal your money, but we'll give you a little bit of it back so long as you use it for reclamation. And the difference is in Campbell County and other mining communities in the state, that program's going on and they're getting their reclamation money back. But in Rock Springs, well, that mine happened before that program ever existed. And so it's just kind of a persistent problem. And as I said before the break, conservatives, we like to take care of persistent problems, take care of it in a conservative way and do it right the first time. That way we don't have to deal with it any longer. Now, listen, and I can't believe I'm playing this soundbite. But to take a listen to Lloyd Larson. And part of the reason why I chose this one is he apologizes again for his horse crap comment. Oh, wait a minute. Let's go back and we'll listen to that one real quick so you can hear what Lloyd Larson had to say. Check this out.
When you ask those old timers there, where do you live? They say, well, where number
topic.
19 was or whatever. It's these mines because that's where they live. But then
What's your point?
We're getting well off the topic here, giving a history lesson to the community. We really just need to know why there's a request for these funds. And that doesn't need to go back to the early 1900s, late 1800s.
Thank you. Let's please stay on topic.
horse crap.
So that was Lloyd Larson's response. And so let me get back to the soundbite for today. But he makes another attempt to convince the legislature that this is a problem that needs to be fixed. Let's see here. Here we go. Here's Lloyd Larson. Listen to this.
Community, as they continue to try to get this project resolved, I think that it really shows collaboration and a willingness of both the county and the community to come forth and let the state step up and help that. You know, last year in our budget, it was the biggest budget in history because of the B11s, which are federal funds that we allowed authorization to put in. But the general fund appropriation, which this comes out of, was actually less than the previous biennium budget.
Yeah.
So when we talk about that, I think we have to kind of keep things in perspective a little bit and realize that we have the ability to help this community, and would encourage you to support this. I would also just remind us yesterday that this was the point of the day when I got uncivil, and again would like to apologize to the body for the reference that I made, and I'll go sit in the corner and be better, Mr. Speaker.
We all wish you would go sit in the corner, Lloyd. But the point he's trying to make is this is a compromise. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, it was $22 million. Yesterday, it was $11 million to try to just get a handle on this project. And in my personal opinion, I think the conservative thing to do is just to solve the problem, make sure that we've got a plan to get the project done and that it's going to work and that we're not just throwing money at it. So if those folks from Sweetwater County would come with a plan instead of just saying, we're just going to give them money, maybe it'll pass. But conservatives, I think we ought to vote for it and just be done with it. It's been too long going on, and we know there's a problem, and we know that there's 20,000 citizens down in Rock Springs that are having to deal with this. So my opinion is, let's just fund it. We fund a whole lot of other crazy stuff, so why not this one? And you can't tell me. And let's go back to John Bear's point. Well, we're depleting this account. There are billions of dollars that are sitting around in various coffee cans. The money is there. They should just go find it, fund the project, and be done with it. Enough of this voting it down. And here's another thing. it's just stamping forward with this budget. They've got the Senate to deal with too, so you never know what's going to happen over there. I just say vote for it and let's get done with it. Moving on, there's an interesting story in the Daily Caller, and this one is almost unbelievable. But I think that it's worth talking about the Chinese influence in America. It was not that long ago that I told you the story of Chai-Kam Sam, how he was part of the State Legislative Leaders Foundation, who has direct ties to the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese influence goes way beyond, in America anyway, goes way beyond what most of us know. Well, the Daily Caller has an exclusive article, and listen to the title: Chinese Communist Party quietly operates shadow justice system in United States cities. And I quote, listen to this. China is imposing its justice system on American soil using a web of U.S.-based nonprofits linked to the Chinese Communist Party Intelligence Agency, a Daily Caller News Foundation investigation found. Located throughout California, the greater Washington, D.C. area, Hawaii, and New York, the network of more than a dozen nonprofits share information with Chinese law enforcement officials, and some also host unsanctioned courtrooms in the U.S., a months-long investigation discovered. Although the Chinese government claims it appoints law enforcement officials overseas in order to more conveniently handle mundane matters like Chinese driver's license renewal and international divorce cases, U.S. lawmakers and intelligence analysts say that China's underground courts could easily be weaponized to punish dissidents and expand communist influence abroad. Liu Pengyu, a Chinese embassy spokesperson, told the DCNF that, quote, Chinese law enforcement agencies conduct foreign law enforcement cooperation strictly in accordance with international law, fully respect foreign laws and judicial sovereignty, and protect the legitimate rights and interests of criminal suspects in accordance with the law. What else did you expect the Chinese government to say? However, the DCNF, the Daily Caller, that is, found that not only are all the identified nonprofits led by individuals working with the Chinese intelligence service called the United Front Work Department, but some of their leaders have also explicitly discussed forced repatriation operations with the Ministry of Public Security officials in China. Furthermore, several of the individuals appointed to operate overseas Chinese courts in the U.S. also belong to the nonprofit that ran a Chinese police station in New York, which the Department of Justice found sought to forcibly repatriate individuals back to China. Quote, the Chinese government's attempt to impose its repressive legal system on U.S. soil through the CCP's United Front network is an unacceptable assault on U.S. sovereignty and the rule of law, Michigan Republican Representative John Moliniar told the DCNF. Quote, these actions jeopardize the safety and freedoms of Chinese Americans and undermine the principles of justice that define our nation. Let's see here. Congress and law enforcement must remain vigilant, hold those involved accountable, and impose costs on the CCP's illicit United Front activities within the United States. The Chinese influence in America is nationwide. If they can reach their fingers into representatives from the state of Wyoming, why could they not reach their fingers into covert courts that grab dissidents off the street and force them to repatriate themselves back to China? Why isn't that so believable? It was not that long ago that the Chinese government set up a alleged cryptocurrency mine pretty darn close to F.E. Warren Air Force Base. This was a hot topic during last legislative session, trying to bar enemies of the U.S. government from owning property. Why is that? Now, why would they want to own property right next to F.E. Warren Air Force Base? I don't know. Sounds like they might want military intelligence. The point here is that the Chinese influence needs to become a reality for most state legislators, not just in Wyoming, but across the country. Their influence goes far deeper than you could possibly imagine, and we absolutely have to get a handle on it. Think about our educational institutions. A lot of our colleges and universities have Chinese programs that are operating on campus. One of those was called the Confucius Institute. And it was exposed on Ivy League colleges, but it's a lot of the lower level colleges, like the University of Wyoming, that kind of gets left in the lurch, and we really don't have any handle on what the influence is there. But I mean, this is just another example of how the Chinese government has set up shop in America And it's only the big headline grabbing stories that all of us hear about. But it's little things like the SLLF and Albert Sommers and John Conrad and all the state, Mike Yin, Lloyd Larson, who have been part of the SLLF. And if you go to the Cowboy State Politics website and look on the show notes page, you'll have to scroll a ways down, but there's all of the documentation that proves that the Chinese government absolutely was part of this organization and that members of our Wyoming legislature were also part of it too. And here's the kicker out of all of it. You get to pay for it because legislators get an allowance to go on these junkets and be part of these collaborations, these organizations, these associations, and you're footing the bill for their membership in it. One of those is the National Confederation of State Legislatures. That guy spoke on the floor of the House the other day. That one is specifically mentioned in the feed bill so that you can fund the junket for your legislator to go be part of this thing. And there are absolute ties to the NCSL also. And where that comes in is the Wisconsin Speaker of the House, Robin Voss, really, really bad guy. That episode about Chi-Com Som, I go into great detail about Robin Voss and Stephen Lackas. Well, Robin Voss was the head of the NCSL for a really, really long time. There's your tie to the Chinese Communist Party. It's not that hard to figure out, my friends. But even at the state level, and in some cases at the city level, we've got to get a handle on the Chinese influence. And if you want to know why a lot of our institutions are getting undermined, it's because we're not paying constant vigilance to them. Liberty, my friends, requires constant vigilance from, and we have to identify those forces who are not in favor of liberty, who don't like the American system and are trying to undermine it at every turn. And it's not that hard to imagine. You just have to open up your mind a little bit and say, if I was an enemy of the United States, what would I try to get accomplished? And the answer comes pretty easily. One of those is just any sort of influence that they could possibly get in any way in America, Wyoming or otherwise. We'll come back to the program and finish it up here in a minute. But first, an absolutely outrageous profit timeout. Back in a minute. You are listening to Cowboy State Politics Live on the Independence Network. You're not going to find a better source of news, information, and entertainment than right here on the Independence Network. Now, we're making a few changes, moving a couple things around, out with the old and in with the new, and that whole spiel. Of course, you could listen to my program, The Ramble Room with Ken Pendergraft, Locked and Loaded with the good Representative Tony Locke from Casper. There's a whole bunch more coming on the Independence Network. Also, don't forget to check out the articles section at the website, independencenetwork.us. It's loaded with op-eds, commentary, and news from all around the Cowboy State. You can listen to the Cowboy State Politics podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest place is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles that I might bring up during the course of a program. That way, if your name is Joe Biden and you can't remember if you had your pudding today, well, I probably can't help you with that, but I can definitely tell you why you should have never ran for president. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program. Open Line Thursday on Cowboy State Politics Live. If you want to be part of the program, we've still got time. 10 minutes left in the show. The phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. Go ahead and give me a call. Whatever you want to talk about, my friends, we'll go ahead and talk about it. Open line Thursday on Cowboy State Politics Live. And let me just kind of give you a kind of another program note where we're at. My presence has been requested every Friday morning at 7:30. And though I am talented in many things and I'm able to accomplish things that no other mortal human can accomplish, I can't be in two places at once. And so Cowboy State Politics Live will be Tuesday through Thursday. Now, from here on until the end of the session, like I said, I got to be at that meeting Friday morning at the Capitol, which means I can't do the program. So Open Line Friday has now become Open Line Thursday. Also, I went ahead and set up a new channel to the podcast where I'm going to publish every single installment of Cowboy State Politics Live, and that way you can go back and listen to it. If you missed a program and you just weren't able to log on and watch it, you're in your office or whatever, your boss is watching you. By the way, you should tell your boss to listen to this program too. But anyway, you'll be able to access it from the Cowboy State Politics website directly after this program. I'll go ahead and put a link up there and create a page, and so you'll have access to it. So anyway, some big changes here at Cowboy State Politics. Now, and it's become kind of a tradition, my friends, since the legislative session, that we have to have at least one Elisa Campbell soundbite, and she again proved herself to be one of the biggest abortion supporters in the Wyoming legislature, but she's also one of the people that claims to be pro-life. Isn't it fascinating? All these folks that really do support abortion and are totally in favor of killing babies, they're the first ones to tell you, oh, no, I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life. It's up to the mom. It's up to the mom and her doctor. Yeah, and we shouldn't even have any say about abortion. Here's what she said. She claims to be pro-life. Listen to this.
I don't think any of us wants to be in a position when we very much are pro-life and then having to explain, and how do we argue this? When we say this shall happen, to create an opportunity to view the active ultrasound of the unborn baby and hear the heartbeat, that has nothing to do with the medical condition. It is a shaming tool.
Oh, so having an ultrasound before the abortion so that you can actually see what you're killing, yeah, that's a shaming tool. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that we're absolutely going to fight for life and we're going to defend the rights of the unborn, while at the same time saying, if it's a woman's choice, she can absolutely kill that sweet little baby. It is absolutely disingenuous, intellectually dishonest, and just downright. I don't want to say it's evil, but killing a baby is definitely evil. Listen to what she said yesterday. You're gonna love this. Check this out.
In that moment, when my doctor says, here are all of the potential side effects, here are the things that we need to be aware of, here are the considerations we need to take into effect, had the government pick a representative, knocked on the door, stepped in and said, whoa, time out, before you make this decision for yourself and your children, we're going to need to stick this wand in your vagina.
Great.
Excuse me, what?
Great. Yeah.
Why are you here? It is not. It is not. And while I understand the value of and the morality behind, when it comes to making those decisions.
Okay, just hold it right there. I can't take it anymore. So what she's talking about is an arthritis treatment. Okay, in the rest of the soundbite, she says, I have all this terrible arthritis, and this is what my doctor prescribed. And then she says, well, I understand the morality behind it. Really? If you understood the morality behind not taking an innocent human life, we wouldn't be having this discussion, would we, Elisa Campbell? The truth is now we've got enough sound bites of how she is absolutely pro-abortion that if there's we'll grab every conservative vote in her district, as we absolutely should. I understand the morality behind this. No, you don't. If you're advocating in favor of killing a little baby, you have no conception of what morality is. Either that or you've checked it at the front door. Here's the rest of what she has to say.
That is not the authority or the right of the state government. That is not our place. It
Yeah, so it's not our place in, when somebody chooses not to have a baby because maybe the baby's an inconvenience, but it's totally our right to charge somebody with murder if they happen to kill a pregnant woman. Has anybody brought up that contradiction lately? That we have laws in this state that if you're a drunk driver and you run over a lady who's pregnant, you don't get charged with one crime, you get charged with 2 cases of murder. Now wait a minute. How is it possible to murder a little baby if you're a drunk driver, but it's not possible to murder a little baby if you're the baby's mother? It seems to me that we prosecute those individuals a lot more. You remember, what was it, Casey Anthony? Prosecuted for killing her little kids. How many times have we seen news articles of mothers that kill their children, and how abhorrent that action is? Think about it. Now, it's abhorrent to kill them after they're born, but to take away an innocent life, they've never had a chance to breathe fresh air, they've never had a chance to grow up and be a human being, that's not murder. The intellectual inconsistencies and intellectual dishonesty of all of these people is truly incredible, my friends. And when they're confronted with their hypocrisy, they look at you with this dumb look like, well, I don't really understand what you're saying. I don't understand what the problem is. Here's the rest of Elisa Campbell.
It is our job to respect the individual, to respect the healthcare profession, to respect all of the agencies that govern and regulate healthcare. Respect their authority, their decision-making, because that is not where we need to be.
No, that's not where we need. We have to respect the rights of the mother. What about the rights of that little baby? Who's respecting those rights, Elisa Campbell? My friends, this is absolutely incredible. And it's that I get a soundbite out of her like every single day. I really don't think that she cares what she said, which, early on, I said that she is trying to become the elite's elitist. And I think that there's no better evidence. I mean, she stands up there and lectures the entire chamber just about every day. And what I heard yesterday absolutely blew my, well, I shouldn't say it blew my mind, because now I've come to expect it out of Elisa Campbell, but that she would stand up at the podium and say that. It's truly incredible, my friends. And, I'm just going to keep reporting on it simply because her constituents have to know where she stands, because I doubt very seriously that she talked about killing little babies on the front step of all of her constituents' houses when she was going door to door. I'm pretty sure that part of the conversation didn't come up. I'm pretty sure she never said, well, we have to respect the rights of the mother, but we don't give a crap about the rights of the baby. I doubt that conversation ever came up. However, if I have anything to do with it, it absolutely will. We've got about 3 minutes left in the program. Let me see what else I've got here in the stack of stuff. Here. The Trump administration is accusing the Fed and Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, for creating inflation. And there's actually people defending Jerome Powell. See, inflation is pretty easy to understand. It's money printing, and Jerome Powell has been doing that at a rapid clip. And then the only way that you can combat inflation is if you take money out of the system. So if you're the person that's printing it, then you need to be able to take money out. And the way that we do that is through interest rates. Well, Jerome Powell has been keeping interest rates at near zero for a really long time and printing money at the same time. And so Donald Trump is absolutely correct in accusing the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell of creating more inflation. Let me just read you the first couple paragraphs out of this, and I quote, President Donald Trump on Wednesday slammed Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and the U.S. Central Bank, saying they failed to stop the problem they created with inflation, have done a terrible job on bank regulation. Trump delivered that broadside on Truth Social 2 hours after the Fed opted to maintain a key interest rate at its current level. It was the first rate decision of Trump's term. Last week, Trump said he would demand that interest rates drop immediately. Well, the truth is, I don't necessarily agree with Donald Trump on that. The only way that you're going to get a handle on inflation is you have to do 2 things. Stop printing money, and you're going to have to raise some interest rates so that you can get the money out of the system. Well, anyway, my friends, that'll do it for the first Open Line Thursday. We didn't get a call, but, first go around on any program. It takes a little bit while to build, but Cowboy State Politics will be back on Tuesday. Also, don't miss the Cowboy State Politics Weekend Update episode. I'll have a recap of whatever we've done this week, and complete with all of the great sound bites. But for now, my friends, Have a good rest of your week and weekend, and we'll talk again during Weekend Update. But for now, from the depths of the Middle Swamp in Wyoming's capital of Cheyenne, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics. Have a good weekend.